True or false? Grilled chicken has more protein than an Oreo cookie. True or false? Moving your body is better than sitting on the couch all day binging Netflix. Congratulations, my friend. You do not need another weight loss hack. You already know the basics of what to do. And yes, it really is that simple. So if you already know what to do, why doesn't it stick? I'm Holly Bertone. After earning 4 nutrition certifications, that did not help me lose weight. I used the elite level pattern recognition skills from my days in FBI counterintelligence to finally create sustainable weight loss, not just for myself, but I've helped hundreds of women do the same. And today, you are going to get the top 8 reasons why your weight loss is not sustainable. Because I'm guessing if you've spent the last 10, 20, 30 years, you've been trying to lose weight by changing what you eat. But yet somehow the scale just ends up back to where you started. And you want to know why? It's because you are building it backwards. It is time to stop managing your weight with an approach that just keeps disappointing you. Sustainable weight loss, it has to be built from the bottom up with systems that make healthy choices consistent and predictable, even on your most chaotic days. When you build the right environment, healthy, sustainable weight loss, it just becomes the natural result. This is where you make it sticky. Raise your hand if you've ever put a piece of furniture together from IKEA or Target. And by the way, if you don't have your hand up, please explain yourself because this is a rite of passage for every adult. What do you need to put the furniture together? Nuts and bolts, right? Well, what happens if you're missing one bolt? If you're missing a bolt, it doesn't matter how good you are at putting the furniture together. It doesn't matter how good the instructions are. If a bolt is missing, the entire piece of furniture is wobbly. And then the nuts, I mean, they seem inconsequential. Those nuts keep the bolts in place. And weight loss works the exact same way. Today, you are going to get those 8 missing pieces that are keeping you in the professional dieter status and what's holding you back from making weight loss sustainable. Knowing these 8 pieces is the easy part, and that's what you're going to get today. But building them into your life, this is where the magic happens, and we'll come back to that at the end. Number 1, you jump in without a plan. Now, before I jump into this, I need to share something important with you. When I surveyed the 39 women, I asked them, how old were you when you first tried to lose weight or go on a diet? 33% said college, 18% said high school, and I expected that. But what really got me was that 22% of them said they started their first diet in elementary school. And the reason that I'm sharing this with you is because these women are professional dieters. They have been dieting their entire lives. This proves that you can't lose weight because you need more experience or you need more information. There's something else at play here. We have been programmed with this mentality to jump to the next diet without a plan. Your sister or your friend at work, they're trying the latest diet that they've heard from some influencer on Instagram. They recruit you because misery loves company. And the next thing you know, you're drinking dandelion tea and running to the bathroom praying the incident does not turn into disaster pants. When you borrow someone else's blueprint, you are building what works for them, not what works for you. Every failed diet, it starts with food. But what if long-term success had nothing to do with food? What if you actually started with laying out all of the furniture pieces and followed the blueprint instead of just making it up as you go? Bolt number 1 is build the foundation. This is when you stop the diet nonsense and you put on your project manager hat, your PMP hat, 20-year PMP here. And you build this and you actually build that foundation of sustainable health. This is when it stops being a diet and it's not about what you eat. And instead, you are creating a solid action plan for your entire life. One of the students inside of this sustainable weight loss machine, she took this to heart. And she said, I feel better because I have a framework to work with instead of just being out there floating in the air by myself. And because of this, in her first 2 weeks, she was able to stabilize her blood sugar for the first time. And she increased her energy so much that she stopped taking afternoon naps. And you're going to know this is working when you've built that solid foundation, when you stop asking, what diet should I try next? And you start asking, how does this fit the life that I want to live? Or even better, how does this fit the woman who I'm trying to become? Number 2, you don't set your environment up for success. Willpower is the worst strategy on the planet. When your favorite cookies are on the counter and your afternoon Reese's cup is in your desk drawer, it is going to be business as usual because your brain's default is just that. Your brain's default is business as usual. When your pantry and your fridge feel like a scavenger hunt to find something healthy, you're not going to look. You're going to grab what's right in front of you. You're going to grab what's convenient, what's comforting, and you are going to grab what you always grab. When the healthy choice is harder than the convenient choice, easy is always going to win. When you don't have water on your desk at work, it is going to be a lot harder to drink it. Okay, you get the idea. Letting your day up to luck, it has not worked for you. So bolt number 2 is optimize your environment. This is where you stop relying on willpower and you start relying on systems. This is when you optimize your environment so that the healthy choice becomes the easy choice. This is when success becomes much more predictable. What this looked like for one of the students inside of the sustainable weight loss machine. She's overweight and she's diabetic. She has quit every single diet because she was only focusing on the scale and nothing else. And she shifted her focus to implementing these systems. And in 2 months at her doctor's checkup, her A1C dropped from 9.0 to 7.5 in 2 months. Her doctor even said, whatever it is you're doing, keep doing it. You are going to know this is working when you stop relying on motivation and you start relying on your systems. The third reason your weight loss is not sustainable is because you do not protect your boundaries. Does this scenario sound familiar? Someone offers you seconds or dessert or their special homemade cookies and you just politely say no thank you. But they respond with, oh, come on, live a little. One bite isn't going to kill you. So what do? You try to justify your no thank you. You go into this 5-minute over-explain, complete with the entire backstory of why you're on another diet and how much you really, really, really mean it this time. And they respond with, are you sure? And with that, you give in and you eat the entire thing. Your body and your health are the castle, and your boundaries are the fortress surrounding it. So you need to lock it down. You need to protect your world. This means protecting your boundaries with what you eat, from binging one more episode on Netflix, from doom scrolling, from saying yes all the time, from staying up late, from skipping the gym, from being superwoman to save the day when everyone else around you is having an emergency. Every time you give one of your boundaries away, external forces are going to take control of your actions. This is like spending 6 hours building that IKEA dresser, and then instead of putting it in the bedroom where it belongs, you put it out on the curb where it's at the mercy of either being stolen or rained on. Not to mention, you're training your brain that your goals and your integrity are completely negotiable. But when you can lock in, when you can protect your boundaries, you are in control. If you do not protect what you build, it will disappear. Bolt number 3 is lock in. This is where you stop putting other people's comfort above your health and well-being. This is the stewardship of the vessel that God gave you. This is when inside of the sustainable weight loss machine, I hear things like, everyone was eating desserts in front of me and I didn't have any. And I passed on donuts after church. You will know this is working when your no thank you actually lands and it's not a wrestling match to see who wins. The fourth reason your weight loss is not sustainable is because somewhere along the way, you stop believing in yourself and you don't trust yourself. I can't tell you how many women I talk to. They have made it their full-time job to be jumping into the diets and the programs and the coaches. They are always looking for the next big thing. You've probably heard about external and internal locus of control. When you don't trust yourself, you start outsourcing your confidence and your results. And when you do that, when you outsource and when it doesn't work, it's going to be much easier to blame the program or the coach rather than looking within. And because you're blaming the program or the coach, you're now looking for the next big thing that promises you the big result. So what are you supposed to do? When you learn to trust yourself, you learn to trust your body. You learn to trust your hunger cues and your satiety cues. You learn to trust your routines and your boundaries and your decisions. You take complete responsibility and accountability and ownership of you. And this is one of the most important shifts in achieving sustainable weight loss. This is also when you develop resiliency. And by that, I mean, there's going to be plenty of times during your journey when you backslide, when you go back into those old habits. Resiliency is when this is just a moment in time and you're going to jump right back into your new and evolving self instead of just burning everything down. Our fourth and final bolt is trust yourself. This is when you stop looking for someone to save you and you finally become the woman you've been waiting for. What this can look like is one of the students inside of the Sustainable Weight Loss Machine told me that she felt like one of her supplements was making her tired. So instead of ignoring it, she knew the exact action to take. She listened to her body, she stopped taking the supplement, and she immediately felt better and had more energy. And by the way, this is not about the supplement. This is about learning how to believe yourself and how to trust yourself again. You are going to know that this is working when you stop looking for someone to tell you what to do and you start listening to your own wisdom. So now that we've covered the 4 bolts, build the foundation, optimize your environment, lock in, and trust yourself. See what I did there? You're probably realizing that you do not need to become a better dieter. In fact, you're probably realizing that you need to build the woman who never has to diet again. And now that you've used your 4 bolts to build the foundation for your sustainable weight loss machine, you now need the 4 nuts to hold everything in place to make sure it doesn't fall apart. Because losing weight's one thing. Keeping this up when life gets lifey and people get peopley is a whole different ballgame. The 5th reason your weight loss isn't sustainable is because you keep quitting. You quit every Thursday when the weekend's coming up. You quit every time the kids have some kind of change in their school schedule. You quit every time things get busy at work. You quit every time you go on vacation. You quit every time you have a bad day. Congratulations, my friend. This is what makes you a professional dieter. And it's almost like you're waiting for the stars to just perfectly align, somehow grant you this perfect, stress-free life so that finally you can actually get serious about losing weight. I want you to get brutally honest with yourself. How many days a week does life get lifey? I mean, are we talking 7 days a week or are we talking 8 days a week? And when was the last day that you actually, quote unquote, caught a break? Yeah, thought so. So what if instead you learn how to make weight loss sustainable, even during your hardest days? Because who cares? Who cares if you can eat perfectly on your best day and when you're all amped up and you're all super motivated? Who cares? That's easy. Anyone can stay on track when it's that easy. What creates real sustainability is when you can stay consistent even on your worst day. Your first nut is to neutralize quitting. This is exactly why I created the I Quit protocol inside of the Sustainable Weight Loss Machine. Because it's not a matter of if you're going to quit, it is a matter of when. So why not stack the cards in your favor and learn how to work with your brain instead of against it? That is exactly what one of my students did. She had 2 really rough weeks. And instead of wallowing in the pit of despair, she learned how to climb out of it faster, and she jumped back into being consistent. You are going to know this is working when that one bad meal doesn't avalanche into an entire bad month. The 6th reason your weight loss isn't sustainable is that you eat health foods that aren't actually healthy, and you're wondering why nothing is working. Back in the day, this was me to the max. I started my day with a green protein smoothie and a bowl of berries, and I was vegan back then. And I made sure everything that I bought, it had the labels, it was gluten-free and it was organic and it was vegan. In fact, I would walk out of the grocery store. I had a small handful of food that I paid $200 for, and I was feeling all superior because look at me with my bags and my boxes of gluten-free and organic and vegan food. Okay, yes, cringe. I was a horrible person back then. And I did not understand that I was not eating healthy food. I was actually just eating processed junk food with healthy labels. Not to mention something that I did not learn in any of my 4 certifications in health and nutrition was that despite the fact that some of these foods are actually championed as healthy and they're championed as superfoods, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to agree with what your body needs. They may actually cause an inflammatory response. So how are you supposed to know whether these foods are good for you? And especially, how are you supposed to know this? Because the way that your body reacts is going to be completely different than how someone else's body reacts to them. But the problem here is that the traditional advice is going to tell you to just do a complete elimination diet or spend hundreds of dollars on testing. And yes, that might be necessary for some people, but for most people, there is a more efficient way. This is exactly why the students inside of the Sustainable Weight Loss Machine learn a proprietary protocol, and it's called Intake 17. This is a simple step-by-step protocol, and it helps you to efficiently identify these problem foods, the problem foods for you, and take the appropriate action. And this goes back to trusting your body and trusting your body's feedback. Your second nut is to uncover those problem foods so that you are eating the foods that will nourish you, that are truly healthy for you. One woman I was working with was experiencing a lot of bloating and fatigue. When we reviewed what she was eating, I went right to the food who I instinctively thought was going to be the culprit. And she did the Intake 17 protocol to see if that food actually was the culprit. And she immediately felt a change in her energy, and she no longer had that bloaty belly. You are going to know that this is working when healthy stops being a label on a package and it starts being just how you naturally feel. Reason number 7 is that you believe eating healthy is expensive, so why bother? One of the biggest complaints that I hear from women who are trying to lose weight is that health food is expensive. So how can I afford to eat this way long term? I completely agree with that. And I completely disagree with that. And here's why. I agree with it because of what I shared a minute ago. Because I'd walk out of the grocery store, I'd have this small handful of boxes and bags called health food with all the fancy labels. And yes, processed health food is going to be exponentially more expensive. Yes, organic fruits and vegetables are more expensive. Yes, grass-free range beef and chicken and eggs are more expensive. But when you know how to change your buying habits, you're going to be pleasantly surprised that healthier eating, it doesn't cost as much as you think. And this is not about couponing, because coupons don't exist for these foods. This is about learning what to buy and where to buy it from. And when you learn how to shop differently, you are going to be more efficient with your food rather than wasteful. So nut number 3 is thrifty nutrition. Because if your budget can't sustain your nutrition is not going to sustain your weight loss. This is financial stewardship here. And I'll give you a perfect example. When I used to go out to dinner, back in the day, I would order 1 or 2 glasses of wine, sometimes an appetizer, always an entree and almost always a dessert. Now, these days when I go out to dinner, I typically just order the entree, and typically it's the best steak that they have. Even fancy restaurants can become more affordable. My bill now is a lot less than what it used to be. The other change that I noticed was my personal food budget. My weekly food bill, and this was me as a single girl, it would average between 200 and 250 a week. Nowadays, it's $75 to $100 most weeks. Now, I do live in a small town. I don't know how this compares to city prices, but it gives you an apples to apples example of what this can look like. You are going to know this is working when you can still shop within your budget and eating healthy feels normal. It does not feel like a luxury. The eighth and final reason your weight loss is not sustainable is that you fall back into your old patterns, and especially during social situations. This one goes far beyond boundaries. This is when you are around people who you know, who you're comfortable with, and there's this certain routine or tradition that you share over food. So maybe it's going out for margs with your bestie, or the cheese and the crackers and the wine before dinner with your hubby. Not to mention every single holiday. That is what I'm talking about here. This is when your identity changes to match the environment. This is when you walk back into your parents' house and you are 16 years old again. We humans, we love our routines. We love our traditions. Tell me one family gathering that Meemaw does not bring her infamous Waldorf salad. I rest my case. The problem here is that despite how good you've been on your weight loss journey, these traditions, they tug on your nostalgia strings. And because of that, and before you know it, you're asking for seconds. The fourth and final nut is social survival. And this one can feel the hardest, especially because we have that sense of obligation with people who we know and we love. We don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And this tradition, it creates this automatic response. So instead, just learn how to evolve in a way that honors your people in your world and also honors your new standards. You are going to know that this is working when you leave that party and you're thinking about the conversations and the connections instead of obsessing over the food you ate. So there you have it. These are the 8 reasons your weight loss has not been sustainable, and the 8 nuts and bolts to turn this around so you can become a sustainable weight loss machine. Your bolts: build the foundation, optimize your environment, lock in and trust yourself. And your nuts: neutralize quitting, uncover problem foods, thrifty nutrition, and social survival. This is your CSI Red Yarn moment. Because do you think if weight loss was just about calorie in, calorie out, that it's going to be easy to effortlessly sustain this for the rest of your life? I mean, sure, if you still believe those sad little salads are going to get you the results, then you keep doing you. Or do you think if you learn the nuts and bolts of creating a healthy life that you love, you might actually get it to stick? I am not going to hand you a meal plan. I am not going to tell you to track your calories. When you build the machine, you create the systems that work for your life. Because it's not just about losing weight. It's about creating a life where you can do this sustainably, even on your worst and your most chaotic day. There are some women still watching this, getting that warm and fuzzy in their brain because they learned something really cool. And you want to know what they're going to do? Bumpty squat. Because learning gives you a dopamine hit. You want to know the woman who is actually going to get the results? She's the one who has already made up her mind, who has already made that commitment in her head that she is ready to build this from the ground up, the right way. And because you're still here, there is a part of you that knows you are meant to do this once and for all. That you are meant to be that woman who can actually lose, who can maintain and sustain a healthy weight. And that's exactly why I created the Sustainable Weight Loss Machine. Because you already spent years collecting weight loss information. The machine interrupts every single failure point we talked about today. This is a back to basics system, and it builds the actions and the patterns and the habits into your life one step at a time, without the lame diets, without the meal plans, and without counting calories. I created this program to be accessible for any woman who wants to do this once and for all. The women who are already inside and they're seeing results, they are just like you. They're professional dieters who have been overweight for decades. They are trusting themselves for the first time. They're watching their lives and their health change one day at a time. I invite you to join me inside of the Sustainable Weight Loss Machine. Click the link in the show notes and let's build this together. Thank you for sharing this time with me today. I'm Holly Bertone, and I'll see you inside the Sustainable Weight Loss Machine.